Welcome to the Modern Classrooms Project podcast. Each week, we bring you discussions with educators on how they use blended, self-paced, and mastery-based learning to better serve their students. We believe teachers learn best from each other, so this is our way of lifting up the voices of leaders and innovators in our community. This is the Modern Classrooms Project podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Modern Classrooms Project podcast. My name is Tony Rose Deanna, and they, them pronouns. A designated hype person here at MCP, and I am live at Georgia ETC, and I am so excited to have three folks with me live. I've never done live before, so this is really cool. And then also shout out to Trace? Is that how you say it, Tom? Amy Trace, because I have a whole setup for podcast recording, which I think is really, really dope. So I'm going to go on this side. So Daniel, you go first and introduce yourself, and then we'll start the conversation.
All right. I'm Daniel Forrester. I am the Director of Technology Integration at Holy Innocents Episcopal School. Previously, I come from a math background, so I was a math teacher, taught public school, and now work at an independent school.
Awesome. And I'm Sarah Eiler. I am the Community Engagement Manager for Screen Pal, but formerly a world history teacher at a high school, so also high school experience, and a tech coach for K-8 schools in North Carolina.
My name is Nick Provenzano. I'm the Community Manager for School AI. Previously to that, I spent 15 years teaching high school ELA, and then 9 years as a instructional coach, a makerspace director, robotics teacher, all of the things in a K-12 independent school.
Oh, this is so exciting. So I've had a chance to have to collaborate with Nick and Sarah as well. And this is my first time ever meeting Daniel. And so we started talking about AI, of course, because that is a hot topic right now in education. And as you walk around this conference as well, there's a lot of AI tools and AI sessions as well that teachers and presenters are presenting on. But before we jump to those questions, right, that I'm just going to come up with randomly because I don't have them right now, I really like to start off with humanizing my guest, right? Humanizing the guest here. So what makes you human, or what brings you joy currently? Anyone can start.
I'll start because I recently moved to Augusta, love the Augusta area, but also feel very isolated because I work remotely. So I have really been working personally on finding things that bring me joy and self-care. So one of those things lately has been needlepoint. I know it is the most grandmotherly hobby ever, but my brain works at a really high speed. And for some reason, when I put on headphones in an audiobook and my hands can still do something, I can turn off the other thoughts and just focus on that minute movement of what I'm doing. So I really enjoy that. I also, unpopular opinion, have started decorating for Christmas.
Already. Hey, you know what? In the Philippines, we start in the Burr months. So September, all Christmas decorations are out. And so it is what it is. You're actually behind, Sarah.
Well, that makes me feel better. Because here, people yell at me for it. But it brings me joy. So I have focused on what brings me joy within my four walls as of late. And needlepointing and early Christmas decorating.
Love
Bring
that.
me joy.
Love that.
I build Lego sets. It helps calm my anxiety because I can focus on a single task, and the laid out process, for people, that deal with anxiety, it's everything is going on all at the same time in your brain. And so you with needlepoint, I can just put on some music and I can just follow the directions, build the thing, and at the end of it, that sense of completion, that sense of I did this. And now I've reached that problem period where do I put all of these things?
I was just about to ask that.
So I have all these shelves, and my wife's like, what are you going to do with Jabba's Barge Lego set? And I go, well, it's going to sit proudly behind me so that when I do video chats, people can see this epic thing that I've done, along with the Millennium Falcon or Voltron that actually breaks up into the robot lions and then can reassemble. But I also have this moment, I'm like when I pass, who's going to take care of these? Is this super weird where I'm is this my son's responsibility now? He's going to or if I should move in the next 5 years. What are we doing with it? Do they just stay with the house? Something like that.
So I just read an article the other day about builders are now actually adding on rooms for Legos.
Oh, I love that.
People have gotten so into it through their childhood and into their adulthood that, like, they're actually creating basically gallery rooms to house
cool.
all of their stuff.
I'm not going to say I haven't
alone.
added lighting to some of them,
Right.
but yeah, I've spent. But it's that quiet time. It's that peaceful time. My wife knows that if she sees me like building Lego, oh, he's working through some stuff, and it's good. And I can crank out an hour and just walk away going, I accomplished something. I think that's the part of it that feels good. It's like probably the same with the needlepoint, where when you're done, because I think we've all had those days where we've worked, and at the end of the day, you go, what did I do today?
Yeah.
Like, what was accomplished? And sometimes you did, but it was just so minute, all the things. You go, what did I do? But, you know, with these crafting or building things, which is why I loved Maker Ed and built maker spaces and stuff, because you, no matter if the project was finished or not, you could say, I visually see what I accomplished.
There's a physical product that you are working towards completion of. I actually was telling my therapist that it's so funny because one of my biggest problems is like negative self-talk, just from I'm an only child, wanted to be the best at everything, wanted to make my parents proud, you know. And I was telling my therapist, like, it's so funny that the hobby that brings me joy and makes my brain relax is one that comes with a sense of accomplishment. Of course.
And I think a lot of teachers feel that way, honestly, if you think about it, right? It's always that kind of, we don't have instant gratification in education, right? There's definitely no instant gratification. So I think we as educators are always trying to look for different ways where we can get that instant gratification, right? And so I was just about to say too, Nick, like, that's such a healthy mechanism, right? When you are anxious and you're crashing out, you're like, let me build some Legos. So kudos to you. That is actually a beautiful thing. Daniel, what about you?
This may be a little cliche, but it's actually getting home and playing with my kids. I have a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, and no matter how my day has gone, when I walk into the door, they scream and are so excited for me to get home. And then, you know, just playing with them, you know, and my daughter loves to pretend, she loves to draw. My son is in a dinosaur phase, so he is every day a different dinosaur and eats off the table, and, you know, and so it's just one of those things that doesn't matter how well things have gone or how poorly they've gone. I get home and they think that I'm the coolest guy in the world and all of my ideas are great, and just to see the smiles on their faces is just like one of those things.
And I'm sure they keep you young too.
I hope so. I'm an old parent.
I'm like, enjoy it. My son's 14, let me tell you. That switch flips real quick.
I'm living in the happy times right now. I'm fully aware of it, trust me. And that's why I'm relishing every moment while I can.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you all for sharing. I appreciate that. You know, I wanted to record this episode with you all to talk about AI because, again, like I said earlier, AI is a hot topic. And I know that with ScreenPal and School AI, y'all are having lots of conversations with leaders. And then Daniel, as a school leader, right, like, you're hearing about all of the stuff that you could purchase for the school, right, that you could help teachers implement whatever it is that you want them to implement. And so I'm curious, I guess for Nick, the question is, like, when you talk to leaders, when you talk to schools and districts, what is one of the things that they look for? And you can also just say, like, yes, Daniel, you agree, right? What are some of the things that they look for, especially when it comes to AI implementation? Like, what are their challenges, questions, concerns?
Yeah. My hot take answer to that with these groups is that AI isn't the solution to all your problems.
Yes.
And
you got to say that again.
AI is not the solution to all of your problems. And that sounds like a wild thing for a person who works for an AI company to say. But we are a company founded by educators, it's run by educators, and we all have been on the other side where the professional development person comes in and says, this is the thing, and you're never going to have to worry about X, Y, or Z ever again. And all the teachers do the biggest eye roll. You can hear it move across the room.
That was me.
Me. And immediately take out the grading for the day and just start, like, they check out because that's coming from someone who's clearly never been in the classroom or is so far removed from the classroom that they don't know what the current situation is like. And so when I have these conversations with educators all over the world, it's the same thing that when I learn to use things like Adobe or Google or whatever, I go, this is going to help you solve a problem a certain way. And it might work great for this class, and it might be the worst tool for this class. Like, I would say things like, I always submit a session that's, here are all the tools that failed me as a teacher. Never gets picked up, shockingly. But all of those tools, I could have another person who could do the exact opposite and say, these are all the tools that were successful for me.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's, again, if you've been in the classroom long enough, every problem is so specific. Teachers talk about the chemistry of your class, like it's a phrase that we use, like, oh, the chemistry in my third hour is great, or, one kid came in and the chemistry was, like, way off.
Yeah. Or
Like,
if that kid's absent. Right?
Yes.
Class
yes,
is
the
completely
glue.
different.
Yeah, the glue is gone. So when we talk about AI, it's going to solve certain problems for you. Some things you might not realize are problems. It can streamline things. It could engage certain groups of students, but some students are still going to require face-to-face, one-on-one human time, which everyone should still have, right? This idea that AI is going to replace all of those things, I think, is the fear-mongering to a bit. It's the unknown bit of it. But when Google came out, everyone said, education's over. Why do you even need teachers? Kids can Google it. And the response from like the tech-forward people was, if Google can do your assignment, it should. It's not Google's fault. It's the assignment's problem. And and people don't want to hear that. And so AI is the same thing. If AI can just do all the things you want a kid to do, what are you asking the kid? Because as teachers, we have to recognize we are no longer the gatekeepers of information. The internet destroyed that. I started teaching and I said, hey, where's the teacher's edition of the textbook? Like, what is this, like 2000, 2001? And they said, oh, we're out. And I go, what do I do? And they just said, I don't know, you can probably like order one or something. I went online, ordered the teacher edition of the textbook, had it, and then I had this epiphany. Anyone can do this.
Yeah.
What's stopping a kid from dropping $45 to get the teacher edition? And it was that moment where I realized, oh, I need to think beyond the textbook because the internet has changed the game. And AI has now fundamentally changed it where if all you're asking is rote memorization things, do we need that anymore? Yes, there are some basics I think we all need to know and memorize and just we learn through doing. But do I need to know the exact chemical formula for this at that moment? My high school teacher back in the 90s, when we took our final exam, gave us the periodic table. Says, here you go. You can have this and whatever's on it. So that it was like the hint to like put notes on it. And he just said quite simply, no scientist in the world doesn't have access to the periodic table or notes that they've taken.
Yes.
And so this idea that information should be used and taught how to be used, whether that's Google, whether that's AI, we need to prepare our kids with how to utilize these tools so that they're a generation that doesn't share bunnies bouncing on a trampoline thinking it's a real thing.
I thought it was a real thing.
Because our instincts, because we're of a generation where we still go, well, that's a video and that looks real.
It's
it
on
must
the internet.
be real.
It must be
Yes.
true.
Right.
Yes.
And so discerning those media literacy skills, AI is now another level. And that's an expectation where, you know, you bury your head in the sand. Okay, your kids are using it. Hate to break it to you. I don't need to teach Google Docs, or YouTube is so unimportant, or Wikipedia is not a trustworthy source. Wikipedia is one of the most trustworthy sources now on the internet. Like, that has done a complete flip.
That is so wild, too. That's so wild.
Completely wild. You used to say .gov is a source that you can trust.
Right. No.
I don't know about that anymore.
Everyone's like,
but that's the part of educators of why we have to stay current. That's why we have to recognize the changes in our culture and remember that we are teaching kids that are generationally going to be encountering a whole different world. And so my hot take is that no, AI is not the solution to all your problems, but it's the thing that can help you get to the thing, which is engaging and supporting student learning.
I love that. And so I'm going to bounce that to Daniel, because as a school leader, right, like you're hearing all these things about AI. How can you better support, or how do you better support your teachers so that they do feel successful when they're trying to do something new, right? Because a lot of the times, it's not a hot take. I think everyone knows this, right? Like professional development is wonky or wonkers or just not effective at all a lot of the time, right? I remember sitting for hours at a time just being talked at. And like you said, I was grading, I was on my phone, I was on Instagram, like I was doing all the things, I wasn't paying attention. And then there's like accountability piece too, right? Like, okay, you sat here, right? And we talked to you for 2 hours, and good luck go do the thing now, right? How do you support educators?
Yeah, it's a funny thing. Teachers are a lot of times the worst students.
Yes.
Because you talk about professional development, right? A lot of people put thought and effort into providing that training. And whether it's for School AI or ScreenPal or whatever platform you're trying to help teachers with, when you get them in the room and there's more than one-on-one or one-on-two, you have those people who open up and start grading or start replying to emails. And if they were in front of a classroom and students started doing that, they immediately jump on them, right? And we have corrective measures. And so, like, while we are trying to help strengthen their ability to handle all of the different technology platforms that are out there that can enhance what they're doing, for me, the way I help them is I really try to be intentional about what it is that we're trying to move forward, right? How is this going to impact learning? And if it's not going to impact learning in a positive way, or it potentially could impact it in a positive way, but it's going to require a lot of time to make it implementable, then I do a lot of that front-end work for them, and I try to investigate. I have a small pilot group of teachers that I will do intensive training with, and then we meet and we test out, and I get feedback from them of how it went in the classroom. And then we talk about, okay, why did it go bad? Was that just your delivery of it? Was that the design of it? And then we try to scale that out to the other teachers because then I have use cases. But really, it's, teachers always want time, right? I need time to be able to understand this. I need time to be able to do that. And that's the one thing in schools that we can't always give to teachers is time. And so to really try to support them is I try to listen to your point, Nick. I think AI doesn't solve every issue. It solves an issue. And so for us, the success I think we've had recently is understanding that each teacher's issues are different. And so trying to get insights from those teachers, whether it's the English department versus the math department versus the world language department, or within that department, what are your struggles? And then let me help you find a solution using these tools that we've identified. Versus, and I'm guilty, I have to do kind of a whole school, presentation on here's the platform, this is how you log in. And like those things are the ones where people's computers are open. But when I go in and say like, hey, you told me you were having an issue with this, let me walk you through how we can use a student space or how we might be able to use a formative to be able to kind of do all these things. It helps to solve that problem. And when that problem then gets solved for that individual teacher, they start using it, they start building confidence, and then they come back to me for more and saying, okay, now I have this problem. And so then it becomes a problem for me because there's only one of me, and how do I help everybody in the school? So,
I think you said something that really connects to how we started the podcast, the humanizing, right?
Yeah.
Because you took that approach of like, I need to help the English teacher. What is your problem, right? Because, again, no different than our students, the minute you can say, I see you, and I see the problem that you're having, what can we do together to solve that?
It's the beauty of what education is being sold as with AI, right? The personalization of learning, right? But when you're trying to teach the human to use the AI to then personalize the learning, you have to have, there's not an AI to teach the AI, the human how to use the AI, right? That hasn't been developed yet. So it's one of those things where it comes back to that human connection and being, that one-on-one time, right? And how can you provide that to as many teachers as you can?
And I think that one thing that was really important about what you said when you went in and you helped the individual teacher, and this is something that I rarely, so I'm a K-12 girly at heart, I very rarely will say that something that they're doing in like talent development, corporate learning space is better than K-12. And I don't want to say better than necessarily, but they really have done a lot of work on focusing on micro-learning.
Yeah.
So you went in, you handheld with that, not literally, figuratively, with that teacher, and you were like, here's how you do this, right? So you basically had a micro-learning session with that teacher, right? And you figured out how to solve that problem. people respond so much better, and I know that's part of like short form video, TikTok generation, whatever you want to call it, reels on Instagram and Facebook. I think that people respond really well to the micro learning and being able to solve one small problem rather than a sit and get, is what I used to call it, right? A sit and get professional learning session where you're just sitting and you're like, you can't even retain the amount of information that you get in an hour. Like even here, I've gone to so many incredible sessions, and thank goodness my type A personality took notes on a Google Doc, because I'm going to have to go home and like look through every single detail of that to identify what my micro learning is that I want to take and apply elsewhere. But just like you said, the one teacher, the personalized learning aspect, but also that micro learning, like it's just one small problem that we solve. I used to lead professional learning for discovery education 180 days a year. I'd be out on the road leading professional learning sessions, 6-hour trainings. 6-hour trainings. I mean, in the same room with the same people for 6 hours. And I would always tell my teachers that I was working with, just walk away with one thing. I know I'm going to throw a lot of information at you for 6 hours, but if you walk away and you're like, I want to collect student video responses on a Padlet, that's great. Use that next week. That's all you need, is just the one new idea. Don't get overwhelmed.
Well, there's, borrowing from the corporate world, there's a book, Big Little Breakthroughs by Josh Linkner, who talks about a lot of innovation and big change in corporations don't come as this huge idea. It's actually these very small things that have a bigger impact, right? And again, it goes back to finding out what the actual issue is for that teacher and trying to provide a solution to that issue. Gains buy-in and helps to create positive experience and has a greater impact, versus saying, here's a platform that can do all of these things. Now you figure out how it solves your problem. And I think that's what in education we have a hard time of doing, is a lot of times we say we just throw a product or a device or something at an issue without really trying to figure out what the real issue is, and how do we have that big little breakthrough that then ends up paying on the back end.
And that's why School AI is so beneficial, because you're taking a large language model, which is a full day of training in our metaphor here, right? That's the full day of training. And you're breaking it into smaller pieces and making it palatable, right? You're like, I need a worksheet. I hate a worksheet, but you know what I'm saying? I need a PDF. Can you help me make a PDF? Can you help me make a script for a video? Right? You're getting kind of those tidbits and solving that small problem. So, the benefit of using a wrapping for a large language model is that it makes it easier for teachers to understand how to generate that and prompt the AI to get what they need.
Well, and I was just going to say, there is a systemic problem in education as a whole where the science is there that tells us how to teach adults. It exists. It is well researched. It has been peer reviewed, and it is completely ignored at all times.
And the thing is, and that's the wild thing, right? Like we just, the society in general, right? Like we are so ready to blame teachers, right? Like we're just like, oh, teachers aren't doing their jobs. Teachers need to do better. Teachers need to do whatever, right? But like you said, like conferences or even professional development, right? It's a sit and get. So that's what they're getting. So that's what they're that's what they're creating for students, because that's what they're seeing.
And that's how they've learned in the past, right? So they just replicate that and think that it's going to happen.
Exactly. And, it's that mindset, too, of like, I've always done it this way. But when we have conversations with teachers who do want to innovate, right, we do a lot of reflection of like, hey, why is it that you grade the way that you do? Why is it that you plan the way that you do? And the response is always like, oh, because that was how it was when I was a student. And so it's like, oh, perfect. Now we can start with that, right? Let's talk about that. What were some of the weaknesses? What were some of the challenges as a student when you were going through that? And then think about like how you're recreating those environments for students, right?
Even building, it's like the craziest thing that I learned as it's over 20 years in education. No one knows how to really make a good assessment.
Yes.
No one is taught. Like, the science behind assessment building is super fascinating, but also never taught to a teacher anywhere ever.
No, right.
Like, it's just the biases. Like, even if you remove that aspect of it, just what makes a good question. We were talking at dinner last night about how do we, standardize these exams and what language we use. So one of the questions referring to a soft drink called it a soda. And there are kids regionally, they'll be like, what the heck is the soda?
Right.
Or what's up
in Georgia,
it's a Coke.
It's just Coke.
It doesn't matter if it's like,
Right. It's
what
a
would you like to drink? A Coke. Okay, what kind? Sprite?
Yeah.
Even if it's a Fanta,
Coke
it's a
is
Coke.
the thing.
It's a soda. Yeah.
Right, so those type of things where we talk about AI, while has issues with biases and people are, if you're thinking about that, you can help remove those. But to be able to have a system that can create better assessments without your individual biases involved in it is huge. My whole anti-multiple choice test question issue that I have in general.
Oh, but it's so easy to grade.
I know.
So much easier.
Do you know, I mean, I'm sure you know, the wrong answers on a multiple choice test have a name. Do you know what they're called?
Distractors.
Distractors.
Wow. Period.
We openly
right out.
call the wrong answers tricks.
Yeah.
we do.
They are designed
Yeah.
to mislead. What type of an assessment world are we creating where we go, did I fool you?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Gotcha.
It's the gotcha.
Gotcha.
Like,
Yes.
I remember, so I did take one as a teacher in teacher ed, and like shout out to my MAT program. It was great. I'm not hating when I say this. I took one course called Classroom Assessment. A lot of my courses were online. My classroom management class was online.
Oh, that's good.
Asynchronous online. I had not managed anything until I literally student
I've
taught
not
and was
managed
like,
anything.
goodness.
Okay.
Let me go back to
I really
module
didn't.
2. on
I had not
figuring out
managed
how to do
anything.
this.
But when I took the classroom assessment course, I remember my professor being like, you're not good at writing distractors. And I was like, so I'm not good at writing the wrong answer? Wow,
Right.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
How I'm not good at,
Yeah.
because my wrong answer was too wrong. It wouldn't trick students, and it was too wrong. It was too obviously wrong. What's
Yeah.
the point then?
It's a trick. It's a gotcha moment. And this is something that I was having a conversation, because I went to a session that was grading for equity, right? Like Joe Feldman was there, the author was there. So it was like, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And one of the things that I had brought up too is like, we're talking about assessments, right? But a lot of the times teachers are assessing not even what they're asking.
Correct.
Right? So as an English teacher, you would know this, Nick, right? Like, hey,
Take
tell me the
notes.
theme. But then I'm taking points off because you didn't write a complete sentence. But I'm not assessing the complete sentence. I'm
Right.
assessing if you got the theme, right?
What's the anatomy of the
right.
assessment? Right.
So that's the conversations that I have too with teachers of like, hey, let's talk about this question that you're asking and then how you're grading it, because it's not aligning at all, actually.
I ruffled some feathers in our English department when I suggested that the kids don't have to write the research paper for the research paper unit. And they just said, why? I go, well, we're just testing their research skills.
Right.
They've written papers all year. I go,
Period.
the writing
Right.
isn't the part that I'm assessing.
Yep.
Like, I know that they can write. I've seen them all year. Do they know how to do research? Do they know how to organize research? I go that. And they just looked at me like I was just out of my mind. I just go, well, it just seems like everyone does it at the end of the year because everyone hates it. And so the kids
Also-
don't want to do it.
Right.
How many times as an adult have we had to write a research paper?
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
No,
it's a very useful skill.
Yeah.
I'm a historian, so I
Yeah.
research a lot, but
You're not writing papers about it.
Right.
No. But like, even to prepare them for college, I'm like, I get it. Yes, in-text citation. I get it. That's a skill. But at the end, why am I making them write a 10-page paper that I have to read?
Right.
But
And it's May. And it's May.
And it's May. And,
Yeah.
And you have 100 kids.
How
Yeah.
deep are you doing that,
Yeah.
that
But to
grading
be
assessment?
the devil's advocate with even in text citations, okay, so I learned the ELA style
Yes.
in English class. Guess what? I was a history major. What
Nope.
did the history department
APA.
use? Chicago.
Chicago.
Footnotes.
Yeah.
Well,
So
you
then
know
I
what?
had to learn footnotes.
I feel like
But now AI can do it,
That's
but
what I was
that's
going to
the
say.
thing.
I was
Yeah.
going to say that
And
AI
now-
can do that now.
How
Yeah.
many of us learned like to make our bibliographies and got points taken off because
Yes.
the period was
The
the
period.
wrong
Yeah.
foot, right?
Oh my gosh.
Like,
yes.
And then when things like Easy Bib and stuff where you just plug it in.
Yes.
I was going to say,
Remember
the Easy Bib came out.
And there was this in
That
the
was a
English
lifesaver.
department of like, they need to know. I go, why?
Right.
This is now
Right.
something
Because
that
I
technology...
had to know.
yes.
Yes, that's the thing. It's
Exactly.
the I.
Because I
Yeah.
had to.
Yes.
Does the kid
yes.
need the Dewey Decimal System? No. Like they can go to the computer now. Like I had to use the card catalog and and like, technology is okay to replace certain things. Again, AI is going to replace certain things that used to be tedious, that used to be about doing the thing instead of knowing or learning about the thing. And as teachers, no matter what technological advance it is, 10 years from now, it's going to be something we have to be okay with. Like, again, every school blocked YouTube. Everyone. Every single one. Right? It was just, of course we do. YouTube's not for learning. And then now, it's ridiculous. Of course YouTube is for learning. Of course you can show this video. Of course you can do it. Like, it takes schools, your school, Daniel, to say, you know what? We want to be ahead of the curve because we know it. And so you have those forward-thinking schools. And so when you work at a company like School AI, it's identifying those and flooding it with, like, whatever we can do for you, because we need those lighthouse districts and schools that see the future and say, you know what? We don't want to be the last school that allows YouTube, the last school to allow Google Docs to be used. Like, I fought so hard to allow Google Docs in my school. It's like such an embarrassing conversation if you think back about it, but because there's predators online. Everything, the internet is just predators, and we can't have YouTube, we can't have Google Docs. It was like those things, but now the idea of removing that from an educational institution, teachers would lose their mind.
Oh, try changing an LMS over.
Right?
Going from like Google Classroom. We went from Google Classroom to Canvas.
Oh, there you go. Forget it.
But okay, so y'all...
They're both great.
Yeah, they are both great.
They were like, I like Google Classroom better. I don't want to learn Canvas. I don't want to learn something new.
Most of it is learning new, but I also have all my stuff there.
Right.
Now I have to migrate it over.
That's the thing, right? So, like, we all work with a lot of educators. I think that's a commonality that we all have. And I think, again, there's just so much empathy that goes out for educators. I mean, I was also in the classroom for 10 years, instructional coach after as well, right? And so I felt all the struggles, right? I know why you're resisting. Because, again, there's a lack of time, lack of support, and then there's, like, so much pressure to perform the way that you need to perform, right? There's the teacher evaluations that you also have to do, and then of course if you're innovating, I don't know how many times y'all have heard this, right? Of educators who are trying to innovate, who are trying to make student-centered classrooms, getting docked off of their evaluation.
There's too much talking in the classroom.
Right, exactly. Or it's too chaotic. And it's like the most organized chaos. Kids are so engaged, but that's like the takeaway, right? So the system, and I'm not blaming any specific group of people. I think the system is just so, there's just so many problems.
You didn't have the objective on the board.
Right.
You didn't have the objective of the day on the board. And I'm
the essential question.
The essential question, Like, how did kids know what they were doing? Because I told them, and they know how we deal with this, and it's the same thing every single day. And the one day you showed up, it wasn't written on the board. I'm like, I don't know if they're not third graders. I know they're sophomores.
I still remember having an observation, and I will not say what school it was at, like in my career, because I've worked at many. But I still remember having an observation where the administrator came in, put down the laptop, and then got called out for like an emergency. All we had done was like the 5-minute opening question. You know, like it was not even the full class period. You're supposed to get like multiple 45-minute observations in North Carolina throughout the year. Left the laptop, counted that observation, the 5 minutes, because his laptop sat there for 40 minutes.
Nice.
So
he has to meet his quota, right?
He's on the schedule.
And then the criticism, like the feedback, not criticism, but it was, because it wasn't, positive feedback, was, well, they filled in the blanks on a worksheet for the warm-up. Do you know what we did for the rest of the class? We did a gallery walk. a literal gallery walk with, like, images, political cartoons, and historical documents, where students were out of their chairs, walking around the room, looking at artifacts from World War I. Like, they were literally, like, riding and walking around the whole period. Like, if he would have done more than leave his laptop there, he would have seen one of the best activities that I did in my classroom that students were, like, very engaged in and very into. But all he saw was a 5-minute opening question. I was just like...
And it's interesting because I'm sure when our listeners are listening to this, right, they're just like, lots of feelings are coming up when we talk about evaluations. When we talk about, I want to try something new, but... fill in the blank, right? There's lots of emotions that come to play with that. And so again, going back to like the tools, right? Teachers are always complaining about time. So the tools that we use should be giving us more time to spend with students,
Yes.
right? And I think that's like one of the things too that I'm having conversations with teachers about, because a modern classroom, Daniel, you haven't heard my spiel about modern classrooms, but we do self-pacing, blended learning, and mastery-based learning. So professional development, we help teachers create that learning environment, and then our teachers use School AI to help with that, and then ScreenPal to create their instructional videos. So this is kind of how we got connected. And so it's that time piece, right? Like, teachers just need that time. They need time to process. They need time to digest. Very similar to our students, right? And so, it's really interesting tying it back to time. I do a lot of virtual events, and I think Nick and Sarah, you do a lot of virtual events as well too, right? And so for my webinars, for the 60 minutes, I talk 20 minutes. The rest of the time, y'all are in breakout rooms, y'all are reading something, it's a shared experience, you're having conversations, you're sharing ideas, because I am actually not the smartest person in this room. All of us, the room is the smartest in this room, right? And so Sarah and I had a virtual book club that we were doing, and I think I told you about this too, because Ken Shelton, we had Ken Shelton on there for the Promises and Perils of AI in Education. And Sarah and I were just like, yo, we can catch up. We can like kiki it up, because our participants are now doing the hard work, right? Like, they're doing the work that's like internalizing it, having conversations about it, so they can see, oh, I need to do this also with my kids, right? Because like typically a lot of the times when we're facilitating stuff, when we're teaching teachers, we do just like talk at them, and then it's like no time to explore at all. And so, this is my first time also being in a space with two community managers, right? Because I am also one. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so great. Why is community important in education right now?
The simple short answer is that the world and people in it are working very hard to silo everyone off from everyone else. And community, I look at, is our ability to help people remember that we have more in common than we have differences. And the differences are one or two things, but every single teacher, whether you're rural, suburban, urban, like whatever it is, guess what? We've all had that one kid. We've all had that one parent. We've all had that one administrator, right? And the stories are different, but the situation is the same. How do I help Billy sit down and do this? Or how do I come up with a lesson to allow Billy to stand up and run around and learn? And whether you taught in rural Georgia, whether you're in LA Unified, whether you're in the suburbs of Chicago, we've all had Billy. And we're all going to share, this is what I did with my Billy. And you go, oh my God, how did I not? And what I love about what we do at School AI is that we're building this program that allows you to ask that question, and for the AI to say, here are some different possible solutions, because sometimes you don't have the time to engage fully in the community. But we offer that opportunity, so when people do show up, they all of a sudden go, it's not me, it's not just me. And that empowers you for 6 months to realize that I am not a bad teacher. These aren't bad kids. This is the reality that we're all facing, and oh my goodness, I have someone I can message and just say, thank you, how can I, and know that I'll get a response. And I think for me as a community manager, my whole job is to connect that teacher from Singapore with that teacher in Kansas and go, here, do something cool. You guys are kind of doing cool things. I'm like, find it, and for them to go, wow, I can bring this into my school, which was impossible 15 years ago, which was impossible 10 years ago. And I think as a community manager, if I'm not making connections, what am I doing?
Yes. And I also want to add on too that with community piece, right? Like a lot of the times our teachers are just so ingrained in what they're doing that they forget how amazing they are. Right. And I have to remind them all the time, like, hey, you're amazing. And it's not even like I'm teaching you new things. I'm reminding you of the greatness that you already have. And because you're so focused on this problem that you're forgetting all of these things that you already know how to do. And so it's that point too of like, hey, this is a reminder. Because like a lot of times that light bulb moment for teachers, like, yeah, duh, of course I should have tried that, right? And it's like, because again, we're just so focused on like this problem that we forget about our greatness. And so I always say designated hype person, because I do community engagement, because I always just remind teachers, like, you're amazing. You're doing some really cool stuff. Let's elevate that. Let's highlight it. Let's continue to like focus on those strengths too, right? So Sarah, what about you for ScreenPal?
I think the biggest thing is, for me, it's about like proving the shared struggle, which is very similar to what you were saying, Nick, in that like we share all of these things, and even as community managers, we don't get time like this very much either, right? Like the other day, Tisha called me and we were talking, Tisha Poncio, who is with Lumio now, we were chatting for literally a whole hour. And we never even realized how many similarities the two of us had. And I'm talking about emotional you know, like our actual behavior characteristics were so similar, and the way that we view the world is so similar, and we just didn't even know, because we had never actually been in the same phone call for an hour or the same room for an extended period of time to talk and get on that deeper level. So I think that having the community and having these webinars and our book club allows educators from all walks of life to be in the same place at the same time, even if it's, you know, different locations, all on a Zoom webinar,
different
in a breakout
grades, different
room.
content, like all of that,
But it just allows us all to share what we're going through, just like that conversation that Tisha and I had, and be like, this is what I struggle with, this is what I struggle with. Wow, we struggle with the same thing. Right. What are you doing to help, you know, to help yourself? And Tisha's been very open. She has ADHD, and she was like, do you think you might have ADHD?
Oh, we've talked about
like,
this, Sarah.
Yes, and I'm like, probably, but you know what? When I was a kid, like, my parents thought that me having ADHD was a problem, and they didn't want, you know, to have the child that had to take medication and couldn't control herself in the classroom. So, you know, it's like just having that shared experience and being like, I went through the same thing, and having that aha moment of like, we are so similar, even though you're in Texas and I'm in Georgia, and our paths don't cross very often, I think is really valuable. And for me, the reason why I like these in-person events and like doing book giveaways in tandem with the webinars and making sure that, you know, I'm giving people access to ScreenPal, or we're still giving away as much as we can for free within the product. It's more about empowering teachers and also being like, you are valuable. Yeah. This is something that I can give you of value to show you that I think you're valuable, because I think as a society, unfortunately, we don't place the value in education that we used to. I don't know if it was ever placed, because I mean, I was, you know, in school until I was a teacher, basically. So I couldn't tell you, other than on the student side, you know, the value that teachers had. But I know the most clear is, being from North Carolina, the monetary compensation that teachers receive is not in line with what's expected of them, or, you know, the education that they need. I have a friend who just is going back to the classroom from working for the Department of Public Instruction, and she's going from making $5,000 a month at the DPI, which is a publicly funded, right, the North Carolina Department of Instruction, to making $2,900 a month as a classroom teacher.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
it's a hard sell, right?
It's a hard, I mean, it's like, even my husband, like, love him dearly, and if my daughter does want to be a teacher, more power to her. I will support her 100%. But he's like, you know what I don't want you to do? I don't want you to be in the Army like me, and I don't want you to be a teacher. Like, he's like, I mean, of course we'll support her no matter what, but you know, you're just kind of like, I've gone through the hardship of it, and I don't want that for you. Like, I don't want you to feel underappreciated.
Right, and I think, I mean, and then that's what we can do with community, right? Like, we can't give you money,
but we
can't give you really time, but we can create a community to back you up, to advocate for you, to support you, to empower you, to do all of it, to rejuvenate you, honestly. I think for me too, a lot of the times community managers work by themselves.
Right.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So for me, it's like more like I want to collaborate with people. I am over competing. Right? So it's collaboration over competition for me. So I'm always constantly reaching out to different people and being like, hey, how can we collaborate together so that we can do and create an event that our teachers would want to join, right? And another thing that I'm also struggling with is like I'm always creating communities for teachers. How do I create community for myself?
Yes.
So that's like another thing too, right? And a lot of the times, again, reminders for adults on how you can create communities in your local areas or even virtual, right? Because I travel a lot, it's really difficult for me to be consistent in a physical space. So I really lean in and lean on my virtual community a lot of the times.
I think hearing you guys talk about how you design your communities and stuff like that goes back to a comment you made earlier around in education. We don't get instant gratification. Like, there's no gratitude given to us by our students in the moment. Like, some of them will come up to you and say, hey, you were my favorite teacher, you had a big impact on me, or when they're graduating, they may say that. But, like, my teachers, the reason I got into education was because two of my football coaches thought that I would be a good coach and a good teacher. And so they kind of steered me into that path. And I had no interest in doing it initially, and then this has been my career. But I was able to go back to them years later and just tell them how big of an impact they've had on me. And I've been fortunate enough to now be so far into my career. I've seen some of my students who now have their own kids that I've come back in contact with talk about, like, you're my favorite teacher, you did this thing one time in class, and it had the biggest impact. When you guys are talking about community and building a community, there's such a long gap into being able to hear those stories from students that
Absolutely.
By finding and connecting with peers outside of your school sometimes, you get a little bit more of that shared gratitude, value, the being able to share their experiences and say, I'm not a bad teacher, that this is what everybody's dealing with. You get a little bit of that that appreciation and that relationship building and lifting up one another in the moment that we don't get from our students because it's such a delayed thing. And I think that's one of the really important things that I think teachers who are struggling in education and who might be wavering on whether or not they should continue, they need a community to go into. And it's you get appreciation from your leadership, but that leadership is always tied, that gratitude is always tied to some evaluation, right? It's like, hey, we really appreciate you. Do you appreciate me because of me and what I'm bringing, or is it because my class is always doing what they're supposed to, I don't take too many sick days? What are you actually grateful for? And so there's always that questioning of whether or not you really mean what you're saying to me. But you don't have that when you're in a different community, whether it's one of y'all's communities with your platforms, or if it's developing another virtual community that you can be a part of. I think in education it's so valuable because you do get to share those experiences, and you do get to problem solve, and you do get to kind of and it makes you a better teacher. It makes your mental health and wellness is better.
Yes.
And it keeps you driving forward. So I think it's one of those things that it's the solution. If we talk about trying to find, technology provides that solution to the issue on whether or not you sometimes get in your blinders and you start to question whether or not what you're doing is actually good, or if you're actually a good teacher.
That's a really great way to wrap up this conversation too, right? Again, all human beings just want that sense of belongingness. All the human beings just want to feel valued and supported and loved, and the ways that they feel supported, valued, and loved, right? And so thank you all for saying yes to this. I know it's so random. I just kind of walked up to you and be like, hey, I want to record this thing and talk about education, and you did it. And this is such a beautiful, beautiful conversation. So again, thank you for being here in this space. Shout out to Georgia ETC as well for putting us in the same physical space together. And I just... Again, thank you for your service. Thank you for everything that you've done for our teachers and our students. And I just really appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey!
Thank you so much for listening. Listeners, remember you can always email us at podcast@modernclassrooms.org, and you can find the links to topics and tools we discussed, as well as more info on this week's announcements and events, in the show notes for this episode at podcast.modernclassrooms.org. We'll have this episode's recap and transcript uploaded to the Modern Classrooms blog on Friday, So be sure to check there or check back in the show notes for this episode if you'd like to access those. And if you enjoy our podcast and it's been helpful in supporting you to create a blended, self-paced, mastery-based learning environment, we would love if you could leave a review. That does help other folks find our podcast. And of course, you can always learn the essentials of our model if you want to go beyond the podcast through our free course at learn.modernclassrooms.org. And you can follow us on social media at ModernClassProj. That's Proj. We are so appreciative of all the hard work you do for students and schools. Have a great week, and we'll be back next Sunday with another episode of the Modern Classrooms Project podcast.